that make you successful in the real estate industry. The first one is work ethic and consistency, right? So literally showing up and doing the work day after day. I remember when I started coaching Sheila, she was, I'm going to totally pick on you this time.
That's all right.
I'm just going to make as much fun of you as possible. Basically, Sheila came in and said, hey, I don't want to do this full time, I want to do this part time, right? Then she has a work ethic and she was consistent. And then there's appointment after investor appointment, after listing appointment, after buyer taken. Oh, I'm going to take a week off, do an open house, and get 3 clients. I mean, her consistency, her work ethic grew a business big enough to where you're about to cap. I mean, you've got to be.
I'm about $1 million.
You're about $1 million in, but you're only, what, 4 months in?
Almost 5 now.
Almost 5 months in. So when we talk about work ethic and consistency, that's really a mindset thing, right? It takes just as much effort to hit snooze on your alarm as it does to put your feet on the ground and stand up, right? Waking up every day, doing the work, being disciplined in the time. The second thing we talk about is mindset, or motivation and ambition, right? So what's happening between your ears, being able to dip into your past or your future goals and use that as motivation to get things done, right? Connect every phone call, every door knock, every previewed property to income. Meaning, when I, this morning, started lead generating, now my lead gen's starting to look a little bit different. I have to call agents, which if you guys think calling for sale by owners is hard, try calling an agent and trying to get an appointment with an agent. Yeah, that's like a nightmare. So, $10 a kid cares. Anyway, in your work ethic, your mindset, your motivation, what we've found is that if you connect your activities to dollars, so in bold, you get a 20 contact sheet. And at the top it says taxes, 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 tithing, business expenses, mortgage, and personal fund, right? So every call you make, every contact, you go up and you cross off a box. If you guys adopt that attitude into your business, it's gonna make your calls more purposeful. So this morning when I'm calling agents, I know that I have to get 1 agent in the door, and that will be enough money to pay my mortgage for the month, right? That's my goal. So I need 1 agent every month, and my mortgage is covered. So you know what I do? I guarantee that I get 1 agent in the door, because if I don't pay my mortgage. Do you guys see how that plays out? And then you can connect it to greater goals. Maybe it's about creating residual income for your family. Maybe it's about filling children's college funds. Maybe it's about getting out of debt so you can begin investing. Whatever it is, when you connect your activities to your income, right, all of a sudden it takes a different approach. So 10-4 becomes super easy. 10-4 becomes something you want to do because you want to fill your grandchildren's college fund. You want to set up your family for success later on. Now, with all that being said, the third thing we found is there's a learning base behind all this, right? The most successful agents are agents who learn. Now, 2 things I'm going to say about learning at Keller Williams. 1, you can learn everything and do nothing. Because you can literally sit in training classes all day, every day, right? You can be on KW Command, you can be in here, you can be at coffee with agents, and you can never take a listing your whole career but know everything about real estate. Right? We don't want that for you. We kind of want the opposite. We want you to plug into the trainings that you need to be plugged into, like the Ignite series, and we want you to take that and go do it, right? It's the take and go do. The ones who are learning based find that in their activities, they naturally come back to what they're learning. They're not necessarily improvising. It's what the MREA, which again, I'm going to reference this book a lot today. Anyone seen these 2 triangles before? So in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, they talk about a business built like a triangle, right? On the bottom here, we have models. And up here, we have creativity. Right? So you can see that a solid, sturdy foundation of models, which is what we teach, it's what we learn, right? We learn proven paths right here. That's great, and we still need creativity. So a lot of times people come in, they want to do everything their own, right? So here's the creativity, this is where we start, and then we add models to it. It's unstable, right? All of a sudden a market shift happens, or an agent who's better prepared than you walks in the door, and you're unstable, right? So we want to focus on models, and being learning-based allows us to absorb those models. So the reason we go to listing classes like this one is so that when we go on a listing appointment, we have something to reference, right? We have a proven path. We have a preparation. We don't just go in and wing it and say, hey, my name's Wes, I'm with Keller Williams. I don't really know why you should list with me, but you should. And we find out they're not ready to list for 6 months. They're interviewing other agents, and the pitch you just gave them falls flat, right? We don't want that. So we're going to talk about today the models of real estate. At the same time, we know that the fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line. Does anyone disagree with that? Right? So that's the model. That's what we call the model. That's the fastest way from point A to point B. This book is the fastest way from point A to point B. 150, 200 of the top agents around the world interviewed, their businesses pulled apart, and we get this, right? Makes sense. Anyone read Jim Collins' books? Good to Great, that kind of stuff? Same idea, research-based, and then he's spitting out the facts and pulling inferences from it. So this is how we create models. Now what creativity does is we might follow the model, get creative, oh, we gotta come back to the model, get creative, oh, shoot. And we kind of do this game all the way up. This is what they teach you at other brokerages. So when you go learning-based and you're not running a play, right, you don't have a playbook. I mean, imagine an NFL team walks into a game that don't have a playbook. Sure, their players would know kind of the concept of football, what they should do, but it looked a lot like an adult league, flag football game. Instead, they have a playbook. They have a proven model for success, right? This morning, in a podcast I was listening to, is frustration is expectation interrupted. Think about that. Frustrations are expectations interrupted. Then they said, models remove interruptions. Models remove interruptions. So frustrations are expectations interrupted, and then models remove interruptions. So that's why we focus on the models. Now, in The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the main concept of the book is built in a triangle, right? Because I don't know, I guess at Keller Williams we like triangles. And then they split this. I know you guys can't see this, but they split this into 3 segments, right? Think $1 million, earn $1 million, net $1 million, receive $1 million. So 4 segments. The bottom part of the triangle is leads, right? You guys have seen this. I think it was already in Ignite. I'm sorry, my table's in the way here. The bottom is leads. Not that you can read my handwriting, but leads is the foundation of everything. If we don't have leads, we don't have listings. If we don't have leads, we don't have customers, right? We know that. We know we got to go get it. Then on the other side of the triangle is listings. Listings are the high leverage, maximum earning capacity. This morning, as I was in an accountability meeting with my agent Josh Keys, Josh, we're looking at income coming from the buy side versus the listing side. On the buy side, we were making 30% of the commission. 30% of the 3% is our average company dollar, what we've made, right? What our company has made. 30% for every buyer. On the list side, we're at 63%. So if we pull a listing and sell it, we're making 63%. If we pull a buyer and close on the buyer, we're making 30%. What do you think I want to do? Listings. What else do listings do for you? Right? You get to take pictures, you get to post them, they get to look beautiful, right? And you get to leverage those listings to get other buyers and other sellers in the door, right? So today, when we talk about win the seller, we're literally talking about how to get that side of the triangle. We're talking about how to lock down one of the 3 most essential pieces in your real estate business. Now, if you guys have read The Millionaire Real Estate, you'll also see that new agents typically don't start out with a lot of listings. Typically it's, 80% buyers, 20% sellers. It's totally okay, right? We know that. But as you grow and as you scale, we found that the biggest businesses are usually 50-50 or 60-40, 60% being on the list side. Does anyone know why that might be? Safe space. Anybody got any ideas?
Well, you're probably generating revenue faster when you have more listings than when you're out looking for properties for buyers.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Nice to have inventory.
Yeah, inventory allows that marketing. Absolutely. How about time? Isn't it easier to carry listings rather than carry buyers?
Absolutely.
Active listings, when you have the listing agent, you just consistently make sure it's priced right. You consistently market it right. But you can do both those things in 10 minutes, And then on the buy side, you're actively showing homes. How many active seeing homes buyers can a single agent handle at a time? Any guesses? I have no idea what the answer is, but 3, 4? right? Denver, what do you think?
Like my personal capacity, or
Yeah, sure.
I have like 3 right now, and I don't want that many.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point.
I have a little more than that, and it's very.
So a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Lots of driving.
Yeah, especially when one's like, oh, I want to buy in Republic, and the next one's like, oh, Pleasant Hope Schools only, you know? You're like, oh, great, you'll be driving all the way across town. And then my favorite is when you pull like the Branson listing, or the Branson buyer, and they want a lake house. You're driving that lake, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing you could possibly do, in my opinion. I refer those out. However, if you get a nice house, it's great money, taking money every time. Anyway, my point is, listings are the maximum leverage for the individual agent. So we want to make sure that when you get the opportunity to list, you guys are prepared for it. We do that a few ways. I don't even know if this is on here. I'm just kind of cruising. Gotta get your head in the game. Oh, there's a video. Look at that. My fault on the video. Okay, so we do it. We prepare for the listing 2 forms. The first is we pre-qualify the seller. Does anyone know what it means to be pre-qualified? Let's say on a buyer. What does a buyer pre-qualification mean?
The bank approves them for a certain amount of credit.
Yeah, they're able to actually buy the house, right? There's financing lined up. Let's say, have anyone had a pre-approved buyer and yet they didn't actually buy? Yeah, yeah. We call that fallout, right? We get someone signed and they don't actually transact. It's a fallout, we call it. Now on the list side, has anyone ever had someone be like, yeah, sign the listing agreement, and the listing never goes live?
No. One I've been trying to get for 3 months now. I mean, she signed the listing and she's just been dragging her feet doing the repairs.
Okay, gotcha.
So her goal is
Sure.
March 1st now.
Yeah. So basically my point is when we have signed MLS paperwork, there's a date on it, right? And it goes live that date, right? And so when you sign that listing, we want to make sure all our ducks are in a row and all their ducks are in a row, because we don't want to get caught in that situation where the house isn't ready, and so we have to kind of continue delaying this listing process, right? So we call that pre-qualifying. We want to pre-qualify our sellers so that they are ready to list the house, that they are actually the owner. One, that's a big one, right? Silly as it is, sometimes the kids are trying to sell the home for the parents, and you go to the appointment, all you get is the kids. I lost one of those. I sold the kid, and the dad hired another agent. Thought it was your house. Oh, no, it's my dad's house. Oh, great, okay. Right? So, happens a few things. So we pre-qualify because we want to understand their motivation, right? When we do a buyer consultation to pre-qualify a buyer, we're trying to figure out what their price range is, what their timeline, what they want, and what's their motivation to buy. What can we dig into to get them to buy? On the sell side, motivation becomes a much bigger part of it. Because how many sellers like price reductions? None. Literally no sellers enjoy a price reduction. Also, you need to position yourself as an expert. So as you dig into their motivation, you are actually, and you dig into their criteria, all that kind of stuff as a seller, you actually start to show yourself as an expert. So I always joke that you don't have to be the expert, you have to be the professional. And I would argue the use of expert in this case is a little bit wrong. You're going to show yourself to be a professional, someone who doesn't waste their time, right? That's super important, especially when you're new. Don't waste your time. Don't spin your wheels with investors who have no money, right? Don't go on every listing appointment, mobile homes out in, Eminence, Missouri. Just don't do it, Focus on the actual buyers and sellers who are going to bring income. And we do that through pre-qualifying. Today we're going to show you how to win the listing, right? It's my goal that you're prepared enough at the end of this to where you could take these documents, go straight into a listing appointment and list the house and beat out any other brokerage in town. That's my goal, right? And it works because frankly, after meeting with other agents at other brokerages, they don't teach this stuff. They literally don't. We'll teach you how to write a contract and how to write a listing paperwork, but we're not going to teach you how to get a client. Blows my mind. We're going to talk about pricing briefly. However, there is a whole other class for how to price and sell your listing, right? It's probably with Miss Melinda back here because she's the expert of all things real estate. Lastly, we're going to, I'll condition ourselves to set expectations with our clients, right? We talk about frustration being an interruption of our expectation, right? Our seller has that same thing. They're going to have an expectation going into the listing process, and when that's interrupted, all of a sudden there's some frustration there. So we want to avoid that frustration if we can, and continue to set the right expectation for them, right? And that sounds silly that we're going to set it for them, but we are. It's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to help pattern their thinking almost like a real estate agent. Okay, so when calling to get a listing appointment for the seller, you're going to confirm a few things. So I'm on page 13 of my materials. I don't know what yours look like. What is page 14? Oh, you guys are on like page 23. Okay, that's wonderful. How about this sheet? You guys have this sheet up here? Yeah, that doesn't do me any good, because those are slides, this is actual. It's gonna be like a little form. Yes, that's the one. Is that page 14? Look at that, it says page 14 on it. What are you guys working on over there? Oh, it says page 14, you guys are killing me. Alright, page 14 here. So, take just a couple minutes and look through this for me, okay? This is actually a script, okay? This is awesome. You want to take a recruiting call from me? Stay able to do with it? I'm ready. No. I just called like 4 times this morning. We kept missing each other. So. All right, is everyone taking a few moments to look through that? You guys like it? Right? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? It's a safe space.
Well, it all depends on who the person is.
Okay.
If it's someone you know socially or you've known professionally before. Because some of these questions you would be superfluous. For instance, if it's somebody you go to the country club with, how did you hear about me? You know.
Sure. Yeah.
Some of it, I think it's sort of situational. Some of these, how I would, feel about using some of these questions would depend on my relationship with the client.
Absolutely. Does everyone agree that real estate's a relationship business? Yeah. So you're going to know some of these answers before you go on the appointment. So this is literally a pre-qualification script. So, ring, ring. Hey, Joe. This is Sam. I want to sell my house. You're Joe. You say, oh, fantastic. Well, Sam, how'd you hear about me? Right? And so you can work through this script. That way you know they're a serious seller. How about this? What happens if your home did not sell? Ooh, I don't know if I would ask that on my first call. I would definitely ask that on the appointment, right? So there's a few things that I want you guys to highlight that you like, and I want you to weed out a couple that you don't like. And this is going to depend on you. We know that powerful questions bring powerful answers, right? So we want to ask questions. We want to ask clarifying questions because we need clarity in the process. So some of the ones I like to are, where are you moving? Why do you need to move there? Well, I probably would start with why. I would say, what makes you want to live there? How soon do you have to be there? If we sell your house in the next 30 days, is that a problem for you? That's awesome. That is a powerful script right there, right? Because immediately we pattern their thinking into they're going to price it and we're going to sell it fast. Go for it.
On the initial phone call, would you ask them how much they want to list their house for?
I would not, because I don't let clients list a house or price a house. I price the house, right? So I would not. Correct. If we let them pick their prices, they will pick their prices, And then we'll be like, hey, you need a price for this? And they'll be like, well, you said sell it in 30 days.
It seems like you're setting yourself up for kind of a fail doing that first and then telling them what it really should be.
I'd agree, so I'd cross that one off.
And they come in and say, well, I think we could get this for it.
Right. If they say that,
Yeah.
say, would you buy it for that? No. No, I wouldn't. Are you kidding me?
I like the concept of number 11. The adjustment I would make is to say I would like to have the decision makers there when we meet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was the mistake I made. I didn't pre-qualify that listing appointment. So I showed up and I was talking to the child when I should have been talking to the parent. Right? I didn't know. The child lived in the house. Same name. It was father-son relationship. Oh, great. Wonderful. Thank you. Now, my dad and I share the same name, so I don't know why I didn't figure that out, but I didn't. So I like this one. How about number 9? I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it before we meet? Ooh, how many people in here actually have something kind of prepared as a pre-listing packet? Anyone? Kind of, Elizabeth? A little bit? Yeah. So it's actually going to go from literally nothing to they have entire boxes full of marketing material, flyers, cards, pre-printed flyers, signage custom to the property, all kinds of stuff that you can do, right? So agents in competitive markets use pre-listing packages at a high level. So when we're talking about a shift in the market, when we talk about pricing, property getting a little bit flat, when we talk about longer days on market, it means that there's going to be more people, one, not liking their agent and switching, and two, they're going to be interviewing more because all of a sudden it's a little bit more competitive of a market, right? Now you guys are stepping in to a, 10-year bull run in a market? That is fantastic. A 10-year run in a market is a long run, okay? So we need to give ourselves every tool in the tool belt. That way when we see the problem, we can pop it out and screw the screw instead of only having a hammer and trying to mash a screw in the wall, right? So this pre-listing packet is a tool in your tool belt. And we're going to kind of go through it here, and we're going to talk about, somehow I keep changing slides. We're going to talk about kind of what the pre-listing packet is, okay? So, yeah, perfect. So I'm on page 15, the pre-listing packet here. Does anyone have any questions before we jump into this? Feel free to stop me if you do, okay?
Okay, so I'm working with the buy, sell ones, I'm like this, like questions if it doesn't sell or whatever, working with contingencies. How does it work with contingencies and, how do you,
Hey Elizabeth, can you hold on a second? We have a question being asked up here.
what is a good way to handle that? Because both of them want to get something under contract before they list their house.
Okay.
So my suggestion was that before we start looking, we have their house completely ready to list. That way we can put it live as soon as we have them under contract with contingency.
Yes, you would have to. I would even argue that in this market, so inventory is still short, but our buy side is dried up a little bit because it's winter. So the script I would use is if you had a buyer come to you, Mr. Seller, and said, I'm not going to list my house until I get yours under contract. In other words, if you, Mr. Client, did that to someone else, or excuse me, if you, Mr. Client, had that done to you, would you accept that offer? And if they say yes, okay, then you enter the expectation that you're weeding out your prospects of sellers. If they say no, then why would we do that to someone else, right? So I really do not like the idea of not having a house on the market and being hunting for homes. That's how we lose a lot of time. We lack motivation. There's no pressure on the buyer. Not that I want to put pressure on the buyer, but we have to create some version of it. Otherwise, they'll continue to stay where they're at, right? So even if they said, yeah, we want to move and yeah, we have motivation, I want to give them a reason to act upon the motivation. And so, especially in our market, if I have a listing and they're writing a contingency offer and that house isn't on the market, it's a no. Every time it's a no, I will counsel my seller, absolutely not. Why? Because there's other buyers out there. There's other buyers that we don't have to go through the headache of them maybe or maybe not selling a house. I did one in Rogersville this year, $360,000 house. The Dan Holt team wrote the buy-side contract and turned and listed a $120,000 house in Rogersville. Should have been a slam dunk. The house sat on the market for 9 months. We were under contract on contingency for 9 months, right? I don't want to do that to my sellers. I feel like I have a fiduciary responsibility to counsel them to say, I don't know how long this would take. You might have holding costs. In other words, you might have to pay your mortgage for months, and you might not be able to close on the next home for months and months and months. Now, it could happen right away. Absolutely could, right? So if the house that the buyer brings is a 3-2 in Ozark for $120,000 built before 2005, or built 2005 or newer, that thing's gone, right? So you have to know your niche market for the house that they're going to list. And I would say, I would even go preview that house. I would make a list of all the defects in it. I'd make a list of everything I don't like about the house, a pricing recommendation, and then write in the contract that the buyer will be listing their house at X after they make these repairs. Make it a contract requirement. Don't handcuff your client is what I'm trying to say.
They're wanting to find something and get it under contract before
Yep.
they list theirs because they like their home,
Yep.
but it's just going to be right home, get them to move.
So they are a C buyer. They are the least motivated and the least likely to actually transact, right? So we need to bring them to B or A. A would be, I'm on fire, I'm writing a contract today. B would be within the next 90 days, right? So they are C. I would even argue they shouldn't even be in the pipeline because they're not actually going to do a deal unless you create motivation, you create a pressure for them.
And I laugh because this scenario was me this year, and as soon as we weren't listing our house until we found something.
Yeah.
We went ahead and bought the house and sold our house afterwards.
And most
we
people
didn't
can't do
it
that.
At the same time.
Most people can't do that though. Most people have debt on the first and they're gonna need debt on the second, and they're not gonna be able to qualify for a second mortgage, and they don't want one at 9% or
Well,
something.
these people, it's gonna be like $400,000. So
So that thing's gonna sit. no
that's what I
matter
was gonna say. It's
Yeah.
gonna sit is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, so what we're talking about right now, we're about to get to. We're going to get into the listing presentation and how to overcome some of those objectives. I always just ask the question back to them, and we'll talk about that, how to do that in a second. So pre-listing packet, let's jump into it. So you guys in your homework were asked to bring a copy of this. I think you're going to print out a full-size guide to selling your home. I really want you guys to, and then I want you to mark it up. I want you guys to customize it, right? Put your logo, put your branding, put your name, put the information you want on it. And this is simple. You put it in a manila envelope and you mail it out 3 days before the listing appointment, right? It's a little system to lock you in, right? Now, when the app comes out, this is actually going to be included in the app. You will have a pre-listing appointment package sent through the app. So all they'll have to do is open the email or open the app, and they can just answer the questions right there. Just yes or no, just punching dots, choosing pictures that look like their home. Super, super, super simple. You'll walk into the listing presentation light years ahead of any Meridian agent you could ever imagine. I mean, it'd be awesome. So, jumping into this thing, we're just gonna roll through it, okay? I want you guys to kind of be reviewing these pages as I talk about them. And I'm just going to give you brief overviews of each page. Does that sound okay? And then my goal is to get through this, get through a mock listing appointment, and then be able to answer and handle objections with you guys, okay? So kind of give you guys some real tools to use. So first of all, it's all about you. I will help you buy, and then look at that, simple list. These are the 10 fiduciary duties of an agent. Oh gosh, why are you here? Okay, and the first is taking time to understand your wants, pricing, negotiating, the loan process, and then I like the last one. During the entire listing from start to finish, I will always represent your best interests. Guys, we're a relationship business. I've been talking with an agent who's been at Assist to Sell for 12 years, and it blew my mind. If he had been at Keller Williams making a full commission, he'd be a much richer man. But the reason he didn't move is he felt that he can make a positive difference in customer experience within his company. Meaning, he, as an experienced agent, could train other agents to give positive customer experiences, even at a discount brokerage. If we adopt that attitude toward our customers, meaning we want to create a positive customer experience so that they transact with us time and time again. If you guys ever go to Bold, and you will all go to Bold, it's awesome. I've never gone to Bold and lost money, okay? I've always made money from Bold. Bold, they'll give you a breakdown of the average number of transactions and prices that a consumer does in their lifespan. Like 14 deals? 14 deals, that's buy and sell sides over their lifetime. So the first time home buyer, kind of a headache, but if you continue a relationship with that person, that could be 14 transactions over their life, one side, right? Now, on the flip side, if you have a fantastic customer experience and good follow-up and relationship management over your career, oh my gosh, in 5 years, you're going to be doing 100 deals simply on referral basis, right? So these pre-listing packets, they're setting the tone for your customer experience. You pre-qualify on the phone, that makes you a professional. The pre-listing packet outlines what the customer experience is going to be. So, page 2, getting ready to list. It's going to talk about how price, location, condition, competition, timing, all of that affects property values, right? And again, guys, you can download these. They're pre-printed, right? So you can go in, pull them into Word, and edit them. I mean, you can kind of do whatever you want. If it was me, I would drop my logo on it. I would customize some of the language to sound more like a punk kid, you know, do some of those things. Page 18, getting ready to sell. So this one talks about price. notice in the pre-listing, we don't give them a price, right? We talk about pricing. We don't give them a price. And you like the little triangle? Again, Keller Williams, the company triangles. I don't get it. However, look at the statistics. This is where we talk with sellers, and I'm going to give you guys a simple script, okay? So, Mr. Seller, if you're ready to buy a house, do you want a house that's 15% under market value or 10% under market value? Well, 15. I'd love to make some extra money on my purchase. Exactly. And guess what? Every buyer in the market is just like you. Now, again, Mr. Seller, would you pay 15% over? No way. What about 5% over? No, not a chance. Exactly. So every buyer in the market is just like you. Not everyone needs a steal of a deal, but no one's going to overpay intentionally for a home, right? So if we price you at market value or below, you have a higher chance of selling, right? So that's what this triangle is telling you. 90% chance of selling quickly under 15%, right? Or that's percentage of buyers looking at your property. So the more of a deal you give, the more potential buyers you have. And we want to hit the largest buyer pool possible. So, Mr. Seller, if you want to price your house to sell, we definitely can, but notice we can't go above market value, right? That's what this says without you having to say a word to me. Now, in the listing presentation, if we get cantankerous about it, you will have to revert back to this page and show them. We want to hit the buyer pool. We want to sell. Page 19, we've got a condition of the home. Beautiful little breakdown. There's a thing that you get to at bold, if you do a bold 100 or if you meet a certain requirement. It's a document called 47 Ways to Make Your House Sell Faster. That one's a fun little document that we'll use at open houses. We'll send it to people. People talking about getting their house ready to sell for spring. We're going to use that document. It's just a simple checklist, 47 things you can do to make your house prettier, right? That's basically what this is. This is going to talk about homes that have the best condition, curb appeal, amenities are going to sell the fastest. Pretty straightforward, right? Any questions on that? Okay. So questions for the seller. These are just a list of questions for them. I love this because it helps them tell you what they want in an agent. You don't have to figure it out by making mistakes, right? They're going to tell you up front. What's the most important thing you're looking for in a listing agent? It might not be communication, right? So the old, well, you'll never get a hold of Dan Holt or Adam Grady, but you can call me on my cell phone. That's a great script, but some people might not ever care to talk to Dan Holt or Adam Grady. They might want someone who's going to make sure the house gets held open every weekend. Maybe that's their biggest criteria, right? Who knows? Maybe it's I want someone who's going to do professional marketing for the property. I don't want any of this discount brokerage cell phone photo stuff, right? You don't know what their expectations are of you as a listing agent until you ask, right? Remember, frustration is interruptions of expectations. So if we allow them to give us their expectations, we can ensure we don't interrupt them, right? At the same time, does that make sense? Yeah. I love that. So what prior real estate experiences have you had? Ooh, I like that question. Especially my favorite when they say another agent that's not at our brokerage and it's how awful they were. Because then I say, hey Travis, my seller just said they did a deal with so-and-so over at Reese Nichols and that they were terrible. Maybe you should reach out to them and offer to invite them to a training event. And guess what happens? Travis puts you as the referred, Travis reaches out. If that agent ever joins Keller Williams, bing, they go to your profit share. Beautiful thing right there. So whether it's good or bad experience, this is actually a profit share opportunity, okay? How would you like to be communicated with? I love this question. Some text, some don't. Some only hand-signed documents, some don't even want to see a piece of paper, right? I love the ones who don't want to see a piece of paper, by the way. And I love the ones who text. Those are easy. Also, though, they're going to ask frequency on updates on marketing. You guys all have access to ListHub. As a Keller Williams agent, ListHub is fantastic because what it does is syndicates your listings to over 300 websites, and then it gives you metrics back. It shows you what your top sites were viewed at, blah, blah, blah. And literally, the 4 options are weekly, twice a month, after each showing, or other. So in ListHub, you just go and you select which one you want. This automatic email gets sent back to them. They think you're a genius. They think you are awesome, you're providing insight into the online marketing. How do you do that? You must pay a fortune for it, and it's free to you, right? So we want to use that big time.
Can I ask you a question on
Go
that?
for it, yeah.
Lisa, once you have the listing, you have to go manually and enter your listing in ListHub?
You won't do it manually, it will read. So once the listing's in the Keller Williams listing service, right?
In the KW?
LS,
Okay,
yep.
LS.
It will read List Hub. You will go into List Hub, you'll click on Inventory, which is your listing inventory. Then there's a section right there that says Seller Email. You'll just click on Seller Email, and then it'll ask you for their name, their email address, the frequency, and then you get 4 options for what report you want to send to them.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the crazy question, how do you get to List Hub?
I cannot answer that right now. There's a training class on that. It's called New Agent Orientation. I think they cover List Hub and New Agent Orientation. No.
Just saying.
Okay.
It wasn't.
KW support, or you can just go to listhub.com.
ListHub.com.
I'm pretty sure you just go to it, Josh.
Yeah, I just set mine up not too long ago. It runs you through there. Yeah, it makes you do it, and it sends an invite because you're with Keller Williams. You have selected you're at the broker. It'll invite you on behalf of the broker. Once that's confirmed, then it'll search for your listings, and then it'll autofill everything if you have a current listing under your name. So if Wes and I are on a team, he has a listing, I can pull it as mine. If it's under my name, then it pulls it up.
Sarah was signing them up for it, and she was doing them whenever they got their first listing, but if they didn't notify her that they had a heard their first listing, then have to do it for them.
I didn't know we were supposed to notify her when we had our first listing.
It's okay.
See, that's one of the things in the list of new agents that we have of is that there's so much there for us and we don't know.
I believe that's in the 30, 60, 90.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the 30, 60, 90, and it's also on the, when you, the technology itemized that we give in the career seminars and the new agent packets.
I will double check really on it, but I'm pretty sure I put that in the 30, 60, 90.
Okay, thank you.
And it should be able to click on it and take you directly to that link.
Okay, moving on here. I love this document again, it's expectations. Look at the last question. It's just so good. Just so good. Josh, you don't have a packet, so you don't get to see. The question is, please list what you're most concerned about in the marketing and selling process, i.e. buyer qualification, showing procedures, that sort of thing, right? It's a fantastic question. Again, frustrations are expectations interrupted. So if we know the expectations, we can avoid the interruption, or if we set the expectation, we can avoid the interruption, right? It's fantastic. So next page, about me. Look at that, you can write a little bio. We can talk about how you're the best agent ever, that you come from a real estate background and you're worth millions of dollars and sold millions of homes. I wouldn't say that, just say I'm the most hardworking person ever. It's how you get business in Springfield. Just be a hardworking, honest person. Honestly, that's what this town needs, it's what the town wants. All right. So you get something? Oh, okay, you just gotta stand in the window.
I'm looking for Travis, but
Okay, he's not up here. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, listing appointment. We're gonna jump all the way to page 23. You guys can go in and watch that video. Josh Bath is fantastic. Also, go to KW Connect, type in listing presentation. Diana Kokoska's son, Sean, has a fantastic presentation on there. Also in bold, they've got some videos of the listing presentation that are super awkward, but they're very good. The scripts are good, right? The bold listing scripts, we have access to those too, so if you want those listing scripts, you can always grab them. I think right now they're upstairs in the PC room, but we can always run copies for you as well. Also, if you download the KW Maps app, okay, tips and tricks. KW Maps app, they have a full, huge script book in there, and you can actually listen to them on audio. So not only can you access like a PDF version of it or a version, but you can hear. So if you're driving around, you can play it. They've also got Diana's Power Ups, some motivational minutes, and some other resources on that. It's a fantastic app. Go do it. Okay. Listing appointment. I'm on page 23. All right, so we're going to talk about the big three. Big three. So the first is greeting, right? How do you say hi to these people? It's awkward to be like, hi, I'm Wes, can I come in? You know, it's just a little bit weird. So we want to script around the greeting. That way it's professional and comfortable going inside. It's always about the little things, right? It's always about the little things. 2, we want to do a home walkthrough, okay? So I'm going to give you 2 tricks for the home walkthrough. The first is, do not let them show you the house. You don't want them to show you the house. It's going to take an hour. They're going to tell you a bunch of nonsense you don't care about, okay? So don't let them show the house. You show them the house, okay? And I'll give you a little trick for that. And the third is the actual listing presentation. We'll talk briefly about the CMA. There is a whole class on pricing, okay? So we're not going to get deep into pricing. I'm going to talk to you how to use the CMA. The next class, price to sell, will be one where you'll go into that a little bit more. And we'll close for the listing agreement and then the next steps, okay? So, any questions so far? All right, let's keep rocking. Do I have enough time? Am I doing okay? Good. All right. So first is greeting. Anyone have any good ideas for this one? Let's mastermind it. Go ahead.
I love goals. Hey, it's 6 o'clock. We had an appointment at 6 o'clock and I was here to see your home.
Perfect. Love it. Simple. Anybody else got anything?
Be yourself.
Just smile and be
Warm.
Yeah.
presentable and
Yeah.
friendly.
What do you guys wear to listing appointments?
Professional clothes.
Joggers, tennis shoes.
Scuba diving.
I'm just kidding.
It could work. I mean, you just got to know your audience, right?
I like to want to a little early.
That reminded me of Scuba Steve and Big Daddy.
The first thing I thought.
Yeah, Scuba Steve.
I think Zach shows up in like hazmat suits.
Yeah, exactly. Here's Zach Riggs. You're the listings you go see. Full white suit. No, so I always tell people dress to your audience, right? The reason I look like this most days is because I'm out meeting other agents, right? Now, for instance, we just took a listing of a financial advisor. I'm not going to show up in jeans and shorts or, t-shirt or whatever it is. I'm going to dress as a financial advisor would dress, right? At the same time, if I'm listing a buddy's house that I play pickup basketball with, I'll probably be in jeans and a t-shirt. I'm not too worried about that, So you have to determine your level of relationship with them. If you don't know, default professional, right? If you just have no idea.
Every to Missouri wearing high heels.
Don't do that. Yep. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even carry muck boots in my truck. So yeah, if I'm going out to land and I'm gonna show land or I'm gonna list land, it's like strap them on. I'll be in a suit with muck boots on, trudging out there. But it works, and they appreciate it. People appreciate your preparedness, right? Now, at the same time, again, just know your audience. It would be better to default professional than to offend by being underdressed, right? That you can lose a listing based on appearance, as silly as that is, okay? So in bold, they say, what is it? Get a haircut, brush your teeth, and dress up, or something like that. I don't know, something silly. It was the first guy, Mitch Schwartz. He always wore suits that were too big for him. So as he's saying this, I always kind of laughed. I'm like, dude, you can't even dress up for us. Okay, anyway. Greeting, and they give you a script here. The script here is, thank you for inviting me to apply for the job of getting your home sold. Okay? I do this one. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, how's it going? Great, how are you? Fantastic. And I just step right in the door. Like, I don't wait for them to, it's just, hey, great, oh yeah, and I just go right in, right? And, oh, this is fantastic. The next thing we're going to do is walk through the home. So if you like the script of, hey, we had an appointment at 6 do you mind if I come in? That's fantastic because it shows that you showed up on time. If you know the person, it's different, right? If it's kind of an awkward, cold lead, just be super relational, right? You want to be their friend, right? Because people like to look good and be right, and friends help you look good and be right. So you want to create a relationship with them in order to get through the door. And it's super awkward when you stand at the door like a Ginsu knife salesman. Isn't that what they do, Ginsu knives? Hi, would you like to place an order for Ginsu knives? We're the best. Can we come in? You don't want to do that. You just simply want to shake their hand. How are you? Fantastic. Let's get this thing going. Okay? As soon as you step in the door, this is where it gets really important. Because you don't know if you're the first person or the last person through that door. I would prefer you be the first or the last. Try not to be the middle. The middle is ugly territory. It's just like when you write an offer. You want to be the first offer or the last offer, right? The middles are the ones that they get compared and usually kicked out, right? Why? I don't know. It just happens. So So I want to be the first or the last. That's why we ask questions that pre-qualify, right? We'll know whether we're first or last. So one of the questions I like to use is, are you interviewing other agents? Right? That's a question I would add to my pre-qualifying script. Because if they say yes, for instance, Charles Chasteen, I booked a listing appointment. I failed to ask this question. The house went live the day before I had my appointment set. I went, what the heck? And Charles had taken the listing. Now, great on Charles for getting that thing listed. But I called the seller. I said, hey, you just listed with Charles. She's like, oh, yeah, he came by the other day. I said, well, great. You know we have an appointment tomorrow to talk about listing the house. Yeah, but he was the first one here, so we went ahead and just listed with him. Oh, my fault, right? I should have asked that question. I would have known he had that appointment. I would have got in there right away. So, look at this. Walk through the home. Follow with me, okay? Hey, how's it going? Great. How are you? Fantastic. Before we get started, I'm going to set my stuff in the kitchen, and I'm going to do a brief walkthrough of your house. Do you mind coming along with me? That way I can ask you questions as we go. Right? Set the expectation. I'm going to do a brief walk through the house. Would you come with me? That way I can ask you questions as we go. Inevitably, especially if they're men, they're going to try to like go in front, straighten things out, like try to sell you on the house, right? I don't know why. Men always feel like they have to sell agents on the home. So we can let them do that. That's fine, right? But I'm going to go ahead and set the expectation that I'm going to basically ignore everything they say and go see the house. And then when I need to, I'll ask a clarifying question. As I go through the house, I already know it's a 3-2 with 1,400 feet, built in 2005, and looks like every other house on the block, right? I already know the house. There's not a whole lot there. So what I'm going to look for are 1, defects, and 2, features, right? Defects and features. For instance, with Josh's house was a unique home in this neighborhood of pretty much the same homes, right? It's basically 3 floor plans. That's it, in the whole neighborhood. Josh's house, which Josh was my first real estate transaction, by the way. Look at that. Talk about a relationship. That one worked out real well. Anyway, his house was a 3-2, but it had this cool little office room in it. And none of the other houses on the block had this office room. Like, literally none. His was the only one. So when he goes, I knew that one added value. The other agent gave it no value. We knew 1, it added value, and 2, it'd be a huge selling point down the road. It's like right now you go in, it's a cute little office. It's fantastic. There's no windows or closet, but it's a huge feature in that home. So I'm going to definitely mark that. That would even be something that I might even measure, right? You have a measure app on your phone that you can use. By the way, do you know there's a stud finder app now? It actually works. How cool is that? All right. Yeah, look at this. All these tips and tricks. But I would use a measure. I would, take a quick measurement of that. Or maybe they upgraded a bathroom. Maybe they did some like fresh carpet in a bedroom. Maybe there's some really gaudy paint, like some really bad paint, right? Maybe there's a purple bold wall in the bathroom or something. You just need to get rid of that. Whatever it is, I'm going to make a list of things that 1, I don't think will sell, 2, they need to fix, or 3, will help it sell, okay? That's going to even include the exterior of the home. So I'm going to walk the interior, right? And you could use a script like Cole does. Yeah, hey, I'm going to walk the house with buyer's eyes. You mind coming along with me? That way I can ask you questions. Whatever you want to do. You're going to move through it pretty quick. I mean, there's really not a whole lot. If you have questions, if there's a propane tank, a water softener, some of those things on the inclusions, exclusions lines and contracts, ask those questions. You don't really have to know them yet because you're going to come back to do your MLS detail page, or you're going to, I don't know, you just ask them over the phone or something once they sign with you. But my goal of the walkthrough is to basically, well, this one even has a home tour checklist. Look at that. That's page 24. So you can go through to the home tour checklist. Sometimes I'll even bring the MLS detail sheet. If it's a bigger home, I'm going to take the MLS detail sheet with me. That way it's like, oh, there's a ceiling, skylight in a bathroom or something. And that's the kind of stuff you forget a day later. So I'll even bring the MLS detail sheet with me sometimes, or I'll just be writing stuff down in my notebook. Now, one of the things that I want you guys to remember is that this is their home. Whether they like it or not, we can't be like, oh, that bathroom paint is hideous, It looks just like Diana Kokoska's bold wall, You just can't make fun of the owner's home. Instead, compliment it and call it a house. Don't call it a home, okay? Does anyone know why? Home is the heart.
Because you want
You
them
wanna
to
try to
leave.
disconnect
You want them to leave.
The home is where the heart is, right? We are talking to them about separating from their heart, their home, right? We don't want to do that. We want to call it a house. Oh, it's a great house. It's a fantastic house. Oh, I really love the way you decorated the house. Oh, it looks like the house needs a little bit more paint. It's impersonal, right? And it separates them from the memories of the home. And that's okay. It's just strategic, okay? I'm not intentionally saying, I want you to forget about all the memories you had in this house. I'm starting to separate them from the home mentally, okay? What it actually helps is in the transaction, you get less emotional in your transaction. So again, we're talking about setting expectations. We do it in our little ways. So when we talk about a house, not a home, up front, we're already at the positive details. We don't need to tell them about the negative details. Bring up the positives. Oh, I love the way you have 2 closets in the master, or I don't know, whatever you want to say. At some point, you just see so many houses, you're like, hey, that's great. You know, but just fake it for a little bit, get through the house. Then number 3, we're going to talk about the listing presentation. So, hey, we've done the home tour. Oh my gosh, it's such a wonderful house you've got here. Let's talk a little bit more about how we're going to list this house. I don't like to say how we're going to list it. Let's say how we're going to sell your house. And so, has anyone seen the bold scripts before? Right? So it's got the ... capitals, ... in those scripts. We call those embedded commands. We want to use those, okay? And if you notice, I've been doing it to you this whole time. Once you really start thinking about embedded commands, they just pattern everything. So what that is it's a downswing command within a sentence. So, Sheila.
It's horrible.
It is horrible at them, yes. But you use them, right? So when I tell someone, let's go talk about how we're going to list your house. List your house. I downswung. There was a command in there, right? It doesn't come across as a command. Let's go talk about how we're going to list your house. Or let's go talk about how we're going to sell your house. If you do it the opposite way and you upswing, let's go talk about how you're going to list your house. Like it's naturally a question. Like, I'm uncertain. I can help you, Mr. Seller. We don't want that. We want confidence. So as we're working through these things, we're going to use these embedded commands. So let's see here if it's got any scripts for us in it. We just have the presentation in here. So we're going to walk through the presentation here, and then we can talk about the actual script work around it. I use the bold listing presentation script. Of course, like everything, I adapt it. So we start with the model, right? Then we spice it up with a little bit of creativity. But we're still going to be foundational in the model. So I use the bold listing script. It's the easiest, very simple to understand. And then you throw a dash of creativity in it. Now, sometimes listings are gibbies, right? It's you walk in, you see the house, you sit down, and they're like, where do we sign? And you don't hesitate. You go, right here, Mr. Seller, right? That's what you do. You get that signature on the paper right away if you can. If you can't, and you need to work them through the process, do it, right? I always ask them, again, I want to know the expectation. Do you want me to go through the details of how to list and sell your property? I absolutely can, and I have a plan for it. But if you'd like to skip all that and go right to paperwork and sell this house now, we can. See, I said sell this house now. That was an embedded command. If you want me to skip, embedded command, because I want to skip it, right? If you want me to skip, I can, and we can sell this house now. Or I can take you through the process. I have a plan. I'm prepared to do that. I absolutely can. You're not going to hurt my feelings. What would you like to do? Right? No problems there. Again, we're setting expectations. I've gone through the whole listing presentation, and they've been like, okay, great, can we sign? And I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. So looking at the listing presentation here, we want to create a great impression. We want to share a price recommendation, and we want to set expectations. The word expectations keeps coming up. Okay, so let's review the entire seller listing presentation. This one is document driven, okay? What I mean by this, is this thing really 42 pages? No. All right. I'm just going to take a time out here real quick. Listing presentations are both good and bad. Be prepared with them, but don't use them unless you need them. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. The model states that those who are prepared usually succeed, right? So that's what models do. They prepare us. The creativity is that extra pizzazz, right? It's your logo. You can have a company without a logo, right? It's a little bit of creativity. The model says, have a listing presentation. I say, go get a listing. So if you need to walk through 42 pages to get there, do it. If you need to walk through one, do it, right? Or you can hand them 42-page listing presentation and say, here's our listing documents, let's talk about it. And they're gonna look at it, and you can go, it's pretty long, isn't it? Would you rather just skip? Or I can hit the highlights, right? Give them options. 42 pages would probably take about an hour and a half once you get through questions. So I'm not a big fan of hour-and-a-half long meetings with anyone, especially when they're talking about yourself. So I would rather turn and say, hey, let me shorten this, let me customize it to me. So I'm gonna have the system and I'm gonna have it ready, and I can use it at my disposal. I can hit the highlights of it, or we can just skip the whole thing and go right to listing documents, okay? And people are people. Just like I'm telling you that, I would tell it to my seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm prepared with this big listing presentation. We can go through it page by page or slide by slide. Or if you'd like to, we can just skip all that, hit the highlights, or we can even skip that and we can go right to signing. What would you like to do? And most of the time they're gonna say, well, what do you think we can get for the house? Right? They're just gonna go right to price. And you're gonna say, absolutely. If we talk about price, can we then turn into the listing documents? Yeah, okay, why not? All right, perfect. So here's what I think. We're in a blah, blah, blah market. This is what the price recommendation comes at. Here's high, here's medium, here's low. The medium price is probably where you're at. The low price would be if you were in bad shape. You're not, but we need to do some better things. If you want the high price, we're gonna need to do some remodeling. We're gonna work through that part of the script to set the price. Once you agree on the price, ink is easy at that point, right? Because they know they're hiring the agent mostly for the access to the MLS, right? I mean, if we're honest, that's mostly what people perceive an agent to be. They don't necessarily understand fiduciary duty, right? So if we're gonna take this time to go through a 42-page listing presentation, they better not know what the heck a real estate agent does, right? Or else you're gonna waste a lot of time. So again, ask clarifying questions. That way when you're at the presentation, you know what they're expecting and you know what you need to do, okay? And we can script through some of this here in a minute. But let's walk through this 42 pages. I'm gonna be quick on it. Sound good? Okay, page 27, that's your cover page. 28, a guide to selling your home. Okay, you guys be skimming these as I talk about them, all right? I'm gonna stand behind the podium and just rip. Sound good? Fair enough? All right. So first, in preparation, this is almost for you. Confirm appointment time, show up on time a little earlier, blah, blah, blah. Appointment, there's some scripts for you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to get your home sold. Right? Hey, embedded command, get your home sold. Did you have a chance to review the guide to selling your home I left you? Embedded command, review the guide to selling your home. If yes, great. Did you complete the questionnaire? Another embedded command, complete the questionnaire. They're everywhere. Do you have questions about anything that was presented? If no, well, let's review the packet before we move on. There are some questions for you at the end to answer, okay? So looking at all of this, we might even send this packet before us, right? So we already talked about the one we sent earlier, right? I would even possibly send that, give them a follow-up call. Do you have any questions about that packet? No? Okay, I'm gonna forward you the listing packet, and then once I arrive, please have that out and we can review it. You can do that if you want. On the flip side, send the pre-packet and then show up with this, okay? So we've gone through the appointment. We've got 6 goals for today's meeting, blah, blah, blah. And here it is. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that backwards, didn't I? 27, 28? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. And that page is your notes, so you're going to keep that page with you. Immediately, thank you for the opportunity to get your home sold. Set the goals. What are goals? Another word for goals are expectations, right? So here are the 6 things we're going to do today. Discuss your motivation. Define what your 10 plus experience expectations. I like 10x. 10x is cool. Grant Cardone. Anyone Grant Cardone? No? Okay. Go find Grant Cardone and listen to read everything he does. Just not the Scientology. I'm not a fan of Scientology, personally, but, skip that and do the rest. Review what you can expect from Keller Williams and me, right? Here's a beautiful thing as a new agent. You can use Keller Williams statistics as your own. In other words, we, Keller Williams, get homes sold on average at 94.6% of list price. The market generally sells at 92%. That means by hiring me, you're going to save 2%, or whatever the actual statistics are. Don't repeat the bad ones, obviously. You want the business, so give them the good ones, okay? Explain the selling process from listing to closing. Give them a timeline. Let them know what to expect. Again, the frustrations only come up when their expectations are interrupted. Their expectations are, you put a sign in the yard, everything is dandy, right? So we want to make sure we give them a timeline of what to expect. And we want to especially talk about things like the 3 factors that get your home sold. And in that listing to closing, we're also going to be touching on repairs, inspections, those kinds of things, okay? Number 6, we're going to decide to work together. Ooh, we made a command. Decide to work together. Okay. Page 30 is your notes. We're going to ask a lot of questions. Number 1 are the rules of communication. Ask a lot of questions. The more questions you ask, the more information you have. The more information you have, the more power you have in the situation. When we don't ask enough questions, we open ourselves up to misunderstandings, right? If we don't understand our seller, and if our seller doesn't feel like we understand them, the next agent that comes in and connects on an understanding level gets the listing, right? So we want to lay it bare. We want to know everything. At the same time, if they're ready to sign, sign them. If you can skip this, skip it. Do that. It's okay, right? We start with the model, and we add our creativity. For me, the creativity is, Mr. Seller, we can talk about all these things if you'd like to. If you wouldn't like to, just let me know, okay? So some of the questions there, it's all about you. Oh, I'm going to point out number 2. Listen more than you talk, okay? You're not teaching a class on selling homes. You're actually selling homes. And we understand and we connect with people through listening to their stories. Sometimes they'll give you their whole life. And if they do that, just go ahead and mark 1 in your listing column because you want to be able to connect with those people, okay? Affirm their responses. So we don't, in other words, in listening is active. We don't just sit there and hear. We actually respond. Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Great question. Oh, what do you think about that? You know, one of the questions I love whenever they ask you a direct question is to ask it back. Well, you know, that's right, but what do you think about it? You know, I could probably give you the answer, but what do you think we should do about it? Right? We want to understand them, and some of that is just asking their question back to them. It can come across as rude. Just give it a buffer. Give it a, that's wonderful, or yeah, I agree, but what do you think? Right? You can use that kind of language to pattern and help understand and pull them. You want them to buy you, basically, but you're not going to force them to. You're going to get them to. Okay, so ask. I like this one at the bottom of that page. Mr. and Ms. Seller, to do a better job of marketing your property and serving your needs, would you mind if I ask you a few questions and take notes? Right? Set the expectation. You know, it's the same thing when you're coaching someone. Hey, is it okay if I coach you really quick on this? Hey, is it okay if I help you really quick on this? Get that permission. Let them invite you in. Right? I always love it when people invite me into their lives because it means that they're welcoming to me. If you get that permission, you start asking questions, it's just their commitment to you. We want to get them to commit as many times as possible. It's what information, it's what questions do. So why are you moving? Do you need to sell within a certain timeline? Blah, blah, blah. Some of the stuff we might already know. So we can ask the question, okay? I see you're moving for work. Where are you going to be working? Is it the same job or a different company? We can get into it a little bit more, okay? Delivering a 10x experience. This is just simply rated on a scale of 1 to 10 most of the time. So on a scale of 1 to 10, do this. There's something I can do better to make your experience a 10. What would it be? Blah, blah, blah. Those are fantastic questions. Again, it's giving you information. Why Keller Williams Realty? There's a couple scripts for you there. They also give you a full page of it. It's good. I would customize it a little bit more, maybe make it less salesman-y. Like, I'm not sure I've ever heard someone say, I'm proud to work for the world's largest real estate franchise by agent count. Yeah, it just sounds dumb. So, say, you know, we're the world's biggest real estate company, and I know that doesn't mean a lot to you, but what it does mean is that clearly you're doing something right. You know, change the script. Use the content, change the script, okay? It's the model plus the creativity. Don't start with the creativity, right? Don't just go make something up, like adapt it to you. Okay, technology. Technology is a fun one. At every appointment you go on, you're going to need to start getting your people to download the app. Like seller or buyer or open house, I don't care what. Start getting them to download the app because once this baby updates in quarter 1 or start of quarter 2, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. They'll be able to track every transaction inside. They'll be able to sign documents through it. They'll be able to see appraisal statuses, loan approvals, the whole thing through the app. So this technology piece is gonna be changing a lot. All of that to say is when you're meeting with people, just start getting app downloads. It's not that hard, just share it with them. They'll download the app. Once it automatically updates on their iPhone, all of a sudden, boom, it's brand new.
They have to create an account. They do. Cause I had somebody that opened house and it pulled up a completely different agent.
Yeah.
Even after I shared mine,
Mhm.
they clicked on mine.
Yep, so have them create the account. And also, if you're not the first one sharing your app, if they've already downloaded mine, when they download yours, mine shows up, not yours, right? So whoever gets the first download is the one who is sticky to, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, exactly. So that's why Travis Lathrop, even though his wife Shannon's an agent, he's stuck with Dan Holt's app, right? Because when Dan interviewed him to hire him, Dan shared the app right there. Of course, every appointment, right? That's how you get business. And
Can
so
I install it?
you can contact the developer, I believe, or something like that, or
There's quite a
Apple.
few steps. You
Chris
know what?
knows it.
She had installed it and then did
You
it
have to
again.
clear all your data
And
and
then
all
she
your
was able to
settings.
do mine.
It's ugly.
So it's basically a virus thing, it just embeds in.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So
Real
if
estate
you
agents are kind of like a viral
download your
disease.
Download the app and you can figure it out. We'll help you. We can figure it out for sure.
All right, that you get from me, it's fantastic, pretty straightforward. You guys can track with that. Home selling process. All right, so 14-step marketing plan. Guess where they got that from? Guess where they got the 14-step marketing plan from? Right? It's the best book in the business, people. I've got it dog-eared somewhere in here. Maybe I don't. Page 156. Right? Is that right? Anyone have the red book with them?
Travis, that.
Come on, people, get your red book. No, 156 is budget model. I'm way off. Anyway, in the home selling process, I love that 14-step marketing plan. Go to the MREA, open it up, read about it. It literally breaks it down step by step of what you can do to help market a property. Throw a little pizzazz in there. Go 21 steps, right? What if there's a few things you can do? You can give them a free welcome mat. I don't know. Go 21 steps. Make it a little bit better, because if you're going up against a KW agent, they pull out a 14-step, and you have a 14-step, who wins, right? Go 21 steps. You might win it, right? That's the creativity on top of the models, right? Do the little things. Also tell people, that's the standard 14-step marketing, but I do way more than that, right? They don't know. And you probably do in all reality. Even if you just post it on Facebook, right? That's already 15 steps. Like you share it internally, now you're at 16 steps, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do to really create your own custom, yet still follow the model. Offers and negotiation. It's a good point. I want to touch on that. Hey, I'm a fiduciary. I have a similar duty to you as a lawyer does to their client. What that means is I fight for you in this transaction. You and I are on the same team, okay? You are basically my coach. I'm going to respond on the field and run the play that you want me to. At the same time, if that play doesn't work, I'm going to tell you, coach, that ain't going to work, okay? So we're going to have these conversations with them. Now, looking at the negotiation part, that's probably where I'm also going to bring up the 3 forms of negotiation, right? First is price and terms, it's the original offer. Second is inspections, and the third is appraisals. So we're going to walk them through the 3 negotiations of a real estate contract, okay? And we're going to tell them how the contract handles each of them and what to expect in those. I know Josh does this in his buyer consultations. Even just sit down when you buy a house, this is what we're going to do. Now, not lately, because he's been a big slacker, but in his buyer consultation, he usually brings a real estate contract.
Slack right, you thought you said listening.
I know, yeah. Clearly texting in the middle of class. Same with Kim. Look at that.
Hey,
He's trying to get his business.
sending a listing plan.
Fair. Okay, fair.
I just got an email from both, I was trying to figure out, it's business.
Good. Okay, do business. Contract to close. We're going to talk about that. One of the things I want you guys to consider as new agents is game plan. Meaning, you guys have set goals, right? CGI, you know your numbers class, you know what your gross income is your goal for your gross income is. Yet, do you know what happens in your business when you've done 40 transactions in a year? Do you know that you're like literally up all night doing contract to close work? I mean, it's awful, right? So you guys need to also be game planning along the way, creating those roadmaps, be thinking about things like maybe outsourcing contract to close to Chelsea Seabolt or whoever is willing to do it. I'm not saying necessarily hire an assistant yet, But if, I did 22 my first year, 22 deals. And even at 22, I was like, I am so sick of this. I can't keep lead generating and doing all this contract to close paper. Like, I just can't do it. And so what happens is we get the loop-de-loop, right? The roller coaster ride of real estate. So this one talks about contract to closing here. So maybe have a conversation with them. Hey, I have a person dedicated to contract to close. Even if you don't, you can still have that communication with them. That way the next time around they're prepared for it, right? So when I decided I wanted to start a team, I started having those conversations with clients, right? Now, was I perfect in it? No, right? Josh knows that one. He just caught the brunt. I caught the brunt of it the other day. But basically, you can start setting the expectations for your growing business up front. When Gary Keller started Keller Williams Realty, he used to answer the phone, Keller Williams Realty International, how can I help you? Like, it's one office in Austin, Texas, right? Didn't matter. His goals were international, okay? And so it started setting the expectations around who you are, how professional you are, and the fact that you're a business. So in the contract to close, if you guys want to be thinking about maybe outsourcing contract to close paperwork, so you can focus on lead generating, negotiating, lead follow-up, showing properties, all the main things, you absolutely can do that. Chelsea Siebel here in our office does it for a set fee. I think it's $2 or $250 per contract, right? She'll take it from once it's contracted all the way to closing, okay? You just step in, you do your repair negotiations. If something comes up with appraisal, you do that negotiation too. That's it. She handles all the title, all the communication, makes sure your loop's in order, green sheets, all the ugly stuff, right?
Who does that?
Chelsea Siebel.
Just search her on the internal page, she's all over there.
Yeah, on the internal page, she's got stuff in there. Now, a smooth closing. Look through those things. Those are important. Obviously, review your title commitments. Okay, this is something that does not get taught enough in real estate. Review your title commitments. Those Alta title policies, they have a section called exceptions. Okay, the exceptions are title insurance will cover everything except these things. And in those exceptions, make sure there is nothing wonky. For instance, I bought a property once, and a company out of Houston owned the mineral rights. Okay, so at any point, they could have shown up, cleared the property, literally knocked down the house, and dug out the earth, and I'd have been pretty much up a creek. They would have compensated for me, for the improvements. They would give me the money for the house. I'd still have debt on the land, and they'd go in, they could take all the land they want away. They have the absolute right to mine the minerals out of it, as long as they simply replaced it with fill. You know what that does to a property? Has anyone seen the chat out in the Joplin area? Joplin Web City Zone? I mean, there's like thousands of acres of just chat fields. You can't build anything on it. Schumer Mitchell will, but you know, you should. But yeah, we're not in the Joplin market. Just be thankful you guys don't have to deal with Schumer Mitchell. Okay, 3 factors that get your home sold. I like this one a lot. We have the condition of the house. Condition includes not only paint and carpet, it includes amenities, it includes features, it includes location, right? So condition of the house, marketing of the house to buyers, which you guys are pros in that, right? Zillow's enough, basically. So most people, you're going to market the house, they just want to make sure it hits Zillow, right? So we're going to go above and beyond with that. And I want you guys to review the MREA's 14-step marketing plan, really dig into what those things are, how you can improve on them and get better, and then create that system. It's a checkbox system through it. Okay, price of the house. Ooh, that's the ugly one, right? No one loves to talk about price. Okay, then we can break it down on page 49. Great condition sells. Curb appeal, bright and inviting. Showing the availability of the house is important. In other words, a vacant house that can get shown anytime, get shown more. Simple, because you can go anytime. A house that needs 3 hours notice, you got to put the dogs up, make sure the kids aren't in the bathtub, probably not going to get shown as much, right? So the other thing is, make sure your marketing is top notch. If you have a house that has, a 3-hour window, 3-hour notice before you can show, make sure your photos are super professional and consider doing a video walkthrough. The reason is, if you do that video walkthrough and they still want to see the house, they're going to go ahead and put up with that, figure out the time that works with 3 hours in advance and make it work, right? The buyer will go through those steps in order to see the house, right? If it's vacant, they're just going to go on the dime because you can go anytime, right? So for instance, if I'm showing out in Eagles Gate, right, and every house is scheduled out because these are big homes and people's private stuff in there, but there's one that's vacant, we'll go see the other ones and we'll see that vacant one even if it doesn't completely meet their criteria, right? Does that make sense to everyone? So photos, even the virtual walkthrough, do a drone video walkthrough, whatever you want to do. Professional photos are $100. I don't know why you wouldn't spend that money on the house. Cell phone pictures just look so bad. $100, get the photos done. It'll sell your listing. It'll make your marketing online look great. When you syndicate it to Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, it'll look like $1 million. When you post it on Facebook, it'll just be like, dang, that 1920s $100,000 crack house looks sexy, you know? And it'll get shown. It's true. You guys laugh, but it's totally true. A picture can hide so much. Okay. That's part of marketing your house. You guys can flip through that marketing your house. One of the things I'm going to talk to them about is these days, we're just not getting a lot of traffic in print ads. Like Sherry Loveland says she does. I don't know how she does. I mean, she spends $15,000 a month on print advertising. I mean, think about that. That's a ton of money just on print advertising. Branson, St. Louis, Kansas City, Tulsa, of course, Springfield, local newspapers, real estate books, all print. What is your return on investment? You get like maybe one person a month? Like, how does that justify? If you actually look at the statistics, the majority of home buyers come from the internet, right? Referrals, obviously, number one, and then internet. Internet. And so when you think about it, you go, well, shoot, how would I best market my listing so that I would see people on the internet? Obviously, at Keller, we're giving you access to hundreds of websites through ListHub, right? KWLS syndicates to hundreds of websites. ListHub pushes them out, right? The MLS syndicates to Realtor.com and Zillow, which is also Trulia, right? So if very minimum, you put it on the MLS, you're still getting on the major websites. And we know the MLS is the biggest marketing tool to other agents. Agents sell homes, buyers don't. We also know that buyers are lazy enough to sit in their pajamas at home, scrolling through properties just like you and I do on the MLS, and fill out these contact forms on Zillow and Trulia and book listing or book showing appointments with agents who buy leads, right? It happens, right? So what do? We have to make sure that our property appears beautifully to them, okay? I like to do that through professional photos, video, and I love using social media. Social media, weird way to say that. Social media is a fantastic medium, especially if you do a small boosted post, okay? So get some activity on the post, spend $5 and boost that post, and pick your range. Pick who you're targeting, and focus on those people. So if the house is a 3.2 in Nixa for $120,000, it's 1,100 square feet, right? And it's just a good starter home, even though we're not allowed to market, say, hey, this is a great starter home for young families. We can't say that. Yet on Facebook, we can go in and kind of pick a target market. So that might be a target market of people who are in Springfield, probably South Springfield, and I would pick maybe men and women age 18 to 30, right? There you go. That's generally a first-time home buyer zone. And boom, blast that out to social media for $5, and then just watch it come in. Now, when you do that, the link that you add to that post should not be Realtor.com, the MLS, Zillow. Don't do that. Quit sharing those links. Go to your own website and pull the link off your website and share it there, right? Because then what happens? They go in, they like the property, they're searching other properties. If they fill out a contact form, like I want more information, it'll only come to you. And you'll get a text on your phone. And then you'll get another text on your phone. Then you'll get 3 emails. Then you'll get a call, right? All saying you have a new lead. Yeah, 3 in the morning, it'll wake you up. Hey, you got a new lead.
How do you do that?
You literally go to your website, to the property, and highlight the URL and click and drag it into your Facebook post. You can, no, if you share it from your app, it won't be branded to you.
Okay.
Yep, it'll go to KWLS. It'll default to KWLS. So go to your website, your Placer website, get it set up, super basic, pretty easy. Take a weekend, play around on it, pick your theme, put some flowers, a professional picture up there, your logo, and start sharing stuff from your website. Go, Josh.
One thing we noticed the other day, we were talking about a listing that we were competing with. Their marketing remarks were garbage. So if you're gonna post it, pay for professional photography and do all that, it's all great. If you don't market it, or if you don't put good marketing marks on there, it's hard to show that house too, especially if you're hard to, you're not a vacant listing, somebody has to schedule an appointment. You know, kind of walk them through that house a little bit.
Absolutely. So in your marketing remarks, it should be like you're verbally walking them through a house. So as you pull up to this gorgeous 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Century Elementary School District, priced under market value at $120,000, you'll immediately notice the cute shutters and the white front door. As soon as you enter, you'll also see the gorgeous hardwood floors and the open concept living room and kitchen, right? In the kitchen, check out the brand new stainless steel appliances. Off that kitchen, you've got a little utility room which leads to the garage. On the other side, you've got all 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Don't miss the master suite, right? So you're just gonna walk them through like you were showing buyers. Then when you get outside, wow, check out the back deck. How fantastic is this back deck? You can imagine a great bar. Call today for your showing, right? Just that alone gets buyers excited about the property. If it said, great starter home, 3-2 in Nixa Century Schools, you're like, great, wonderful. Oh yeah, the photos are taken with the cell phone, good. Oh, assist to sell, got it, okay. You know, be a fiduciary, work on their behalf, do it right. Okay, price to sell. Whew. My throat's starting to hurt. Any questions so far? Another tip, if you guys are looking to refresh a listing, so whenever you do a price reduction, you should change your first photo and swap the marketing remarks just barely. It could even be 1 word different in the marketing remarks. Yeah, so the reason is, if you go on the MLS, you look at the hot sheet, most people only filter by price, back on market, and new, right? What you can also filter on the desktop version is marketing remarks. When an agent changes marketing remarks, it's actually telling you that this agent needs to get this house sold. Either he made a mistake listing it, right? Or he needs to get the house sold, or she needs to get the house sold. So they're gonna go in, they're gonna make that slight adjustment to kind of promote it better. So that tells me Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller is kind of putting on a little bit of heat, which means my offer is gonna come below wherever they're listed at, right? Meaning I have a motivated seller. So be looking at those. We can go to history. You can also see what happened in the history of the listing. Did they change marketing remarks? Did they change price? You can see all that stuff in the MLS. Get sneaky, get secret agent on them, right? Also, when you represent, do that price reduction, change the marketing remarks, swap the first photo. It looks brand new, right? Even if it's just a different angle of the front house, or the front of the house, it's still enough fresh that an agent who's seen the house before will likely click on it again, right? It's just the little things. These little things make a huge difference. And when you represent buyers, always check the history of the listing. I want to know who's motivated. The best investment deal I ever found had 16 marketing remark changes, no price change, right? It's awesome. So, okay, that's enough of that. I'm on price to sell, page 55. Let's run through this real quick because I know you guys will probably have questions about pricing. So, a well-priced home creates interest, attracts buyers, generates showings, and produces offers in a shorter amount of time. So when we're talking about this leg of the 3 L's, right, the 3 major L's, leads, listings, and leverage of the millionaire real estate triangle, the reason listings are high leverage isn't because they take less time, and it isn't because you have a higher profit margin, it's actually because listings bring more clients, okay? Through open houses and through the marketing. So when I list a house and I market that property correctly on my website or wherever, I'm going to pull leads. Josh, how many leads did we get off Anthony Court the first day it hit the market? 3?
Yeah, at least
3?
3 or 4, I think.
3 or 4, first day, right? Bam. We shared the link on Facebook through our website. We boosted it, and all of a sudden, lead, right? So immediately, we know when that lead comes in, we have less than 5 minutes to follow up with them before they lose attention, right? So what you do on Zillow, you just immediately flip through. But if you call them right away, especially if you're within like 40 seconds of that lead coming in, you've probably got them while they're still looking at the house. And how cool is that? That is customer service right there. So,
Impressive.
yeah, boom, you hit it. Hey, how's it going? This is Wes. Hey, I noticed you just put in some information about that house on South Anthony Court. I'd love to meet you over there and show it to you. Does Tuesday at 2 work, or can we go later today? Right? So, and usually when I'm picking 2 appointment times, one's like really far off, and then one's like now, right? And so I don't really give them an in-between because I don't want to meet them in between. I want to meet them now, you know? So I have the availability that, yeah, I can get there next week at 2, Or I can be there within a half hour. Can you meet me there in a half hour? Oh, no, I'm at work. Oh, what time do you get off? I'm available at 5:30. Can we do 5:30? You see what I'm saying? So I give them two options. I cause them to choose the earlier one, and then I'm gonna actually make it work in my schedule. Now, on a new lead, on an appointment, like especially an online lead, you have to do a little bit of pre-qualifying for it. So that script, you don't just immediately jump into it. Hey, I saw you're looking at that house. Do you like it? Yes. Great, fantastic. I just want to make sure before I schedule a showing, could you actually afford it? Oh, yeah, I can afford it. Oh, good. Have you talked to a lender yet? No. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's go see the house here. I'm going to bring lender information. Are you prepared to go ahead and get pre-approved? I mean, great. I mean, you just pre-qualified that guy. Yeah, I've got the ability to buy it. Yeah, I don't have a problem, getting lender information, and we're going to go see the property. That guy's a buyer, right? So those listings, if priced well, are those high leverage opportunities. Location also helps too. So even if you miss it on price, and as new agents, most of the time, we do miss it on price a little bit. But if you do miss it on price a little bit, or if the seller just downright insists, but the location's good and the photos look great, you'll still get leads on it. So it'll still be high leverage, okay? An underpriced home may sell quickly and yet detract buyers who wonder what's wrong with it, okay? So if we really do drop 20% under market value, people are going to actually shy away from it, which is crazy because that house could be a gem. Now, if you guys see a house that's 20% under market value, call me. Okay? Sound good? All cash, quick close, promise. I want as many of those as I can as an investor, right? As a buyer, I don't care. I want a house that my wife wants. Right? See what I did there? She picks the house based on her preferences. Price range, it's up to her, right? As long as we can afford it, we'll make it work. And I don't really care where I live personally, and most people operate somewhere in between the investor mindset and the I don't care what it is, I'll pay any price for it. So when they operate in between that, we know our pricing should operate in between that. We should be pricing at market value, right? As a fiduciary in the Code of Ethics, we, according to the Code of Ethics, cannot intentionally overprice a listing. Did you know that? So it's actually an ethics violation if you intentionally overprice listings. So with that in mind, that can be a point of communication. Mr. Seller, we know that if we overprice your listing, we're going to lose buyers. If we underprice it, we're going to lose buyers as well. So we want to hit market value. In addition to that, I can't intentionally overprice your listing without being in violation of the Realtor Code of Ethics. Ooh, no one wants to make you be in violation of the Realtor Code of Ethics. And if they do, I'd probably skip the listing. I mean, you'd have to be seriously overpriced at that point. The last one is beautiful. Mr. Seller, or Mrs. Seller, I don't actually set the price. The market does, right? And based on that, let's look at where the market's at. We can show them our comparative market analysis. So this next page, you're going to talk about the comparative market analysis. You actually have a class. You see that box on there? Next class is actually about that. So I'm going to skip through this a little bit, but I'm going to give them the statistics, the detailed market analysis, and then I'm going to make adjustments based on square footage, bedroom, bathrooms, condition of the home, and then if there's like some uniqueness to it, maybe I'll throw in an extra $5,000 in my recommendation or something like that, right? Like if there's a pool, like it's kind of not worth anything, and it could maybe set you above the next house that's similar to it with no pool. So you might be able to charge an extra $2,000 or something like that. And everyone knows pools cost a lot more than $2,000 to put in, but it might just be that uniqueness that gets you above. Or a lot of people think, well, I've got a brand new heat and air system. That is value, absolutely. But how do you really market that? Do you know what I mean? So your pricing can't adjust the whole price or the whole value of the heat and air system. Otherwise, you just look overpriced to your market. Because most people aren't going to go through every single listing to figure out why you're $7,000 above them. Right? So you have to make custom deductions based on the uniqueness of the home. A new roof, God bless them most of the time, they really don't bring that much difference. As long as it's not leaking, it's good. It's market value. I hate that, but it's true. So what it will do is it will increase buyer traffic if you highlight it in the marketing remarks or have your photographer take a picture of it, What it won't do is garner an extra $10,000 on the home, right? It's kind of frustrating. The appraiser will get the value, but the buyer won't. It's just kind of how our Springfield market works. Love it or hate it. Okay, list. Now we're going to be talking about closing. So we just talked about price. let's say they say, all right, right here, here's the script, I'm gonna read it to you guys. We're in agreement about the price. It sounds like all your questions have been addressed. Based on everything we've discussed, I feel like we have the makings of a win-win relationship. Would you agree? Are you ready to move ahead on this? Is there anything we need to do before we get started? Would you like me to handle the sale of your home? Are you ready to decide to choose me to represent you in the sale of your home? These are all closing scripts. I hate closing. I hate the idea of like a hard close. But if you don't close, you don't ever close, right? So you have to get signatures somehow. And it's not like, oh yeah, Mr. Seller, I think that's the price of your home. It doesn't work, right? You have to actually ask for business. You have to give the order. I even sometimes give the order in open houses. Fantastic. I want to set an appointment with you today. That way we can sell your house and get you in a new one, right? I mean, I will give the order right up front. And if they say no, no problem. No pressure. I just want to make sure if you do something, you're going to do it right. And I know I can handle that for you, right? Whatever your closing script wants to be. If you want to use one of these, fantastic. I just like this one. Great, we've agreed on price. Let's get signatures on things. Just don't even give them an option. Don't ask them a question. Let's do it, right? Slide the paperwork right over. Get it started. So use that closing script. Now, if you guys don't know your buyer agreements, your seller agreements, and your contract, you're not a real estate agent. You're not a fiduciary, right? So if you don't know those documents, go learn them. Go read them. Go memorize them. Go know them. Otherwise, you're just going to do a disservice. You're going to get all screwy in your transactions. Internalize those things. Attend contract class 5-6 times. Attend lister, buyer, seller agency 5-6 times. I read mine pretty much every day as a new agent. Just every day I'd wake up, roll through it, and I would explain it, right? Josh knows I don't even really have to look at them anymore, and I can roll through agency agreements, right? And at the same time, what you learn is really what's important and what's not. What people care about and what's not, right? Because you'll figure out if you would actually care about it or not. So for instance, dual agency. It's a huge section in our listing and seller agreements, right? What is dual agency? Well, it's when I'm a fiduciary to both sides of the transaction. Why is it good? Well, what it does is it actually saves a lot of headache. I become more of a mediator and create a win-win situation rather than having a hard negotiation between two parties. However, I also have fiduciary duty to both. So it becomes bad in that, Mr. Seller, you can't tell me your bottom dollar, Mr. Buyer, you can't tell me your top, right? So that's an important one. But I just summarized 2 pages of the lister and buyer agreement in 3 sentences, you know? Transaction coordination, or transaction brokerage. Here's my favorite one. We wouldn't be having this conversation if this applied. Mark no. Move to the next 2 pages, right? There's very easy ways. The protection period. Do we really need to go into what a protection period is? We're going to give them copies of this document anyway. What is important are the first 3 paragraphs of everything. Number 1, you are employing me, Mr. Seller, to represent you exclusively. By doing so, Mrs. Seller, you are agreeing to pay me a fee of 3% of the list price if the property sells. You don't owe if it doesn't sell. You're also going to be paying 3% to the buyer side. That makes a total of 6%. That's why there's a 6% in this line. Now, here's the important thing. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I need you to understand this. You are employing me. That means you can fire me if I'm not doing my job. And here's how. And in bold, on the second paragraph, it says, this agreement may be canceled at any time with 30 days written notice. Right? So if you're a buy side, you got nothing until you're in the contract. If you're a listing agreement, you get a listing out of it, which you can market. They could still cancel that listing and cancel your agreement, right? So, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, this is extremely important because this means I'm going to work my butt off and I need you to help hold me accountable, right? So, here's the system. We already went through it. We're going to get this thing done. And I promise you that by you employing me, I will live up to the standards in this document. Those standards include motivating factors, disclosure of pending offers, all the other things, okay? And then that's when you kind of get to the end and say, is there anything else you can think of? I'm going to give you a hint on your listings. You guys probably want to write this one down, okay? In the special agreements, there is a phrase that I use. It is board disapproved, but it totally works. So what I mean by that is the board, in all its wonderfulness, views our employment agreement as a listing document, which it isn't. It's an employment agreement. We're the only state in the freaking union that understands, or that doesn't understand the difference between employment and listing paperwork. Okay? The union? Are we the union down here? The union? We're the South, aren't we? I don't know.
We're divided.
I'm from California, so
Been a few years.
who really knows? Anyway, okay, so what that means is if they sign an exclusive right to sell, the board says, oh, you signed an exclusive right to sell, you have 2 days to get that listing active. It has to be active on the 3rd day. Like, no, this is an employment agreement document. This has nothing to do with the actual property being put on the MLS. The board doesn't get that. God bless them. They're just so focused on finding us for every little thing we do that, okay, I digress. Here's what you're going to write in the special agreements, okay? But you can only write this if you're actually going to do it. Seller directs listing agent. So seller directs listing agent to withhold, seller directs listing agent to withhold listing, seller directs listing agent to withhold listing until professional photos are complete.
Or that would be where you put repairs are completed, that type of thing?
You could say, yeah, until prescribed repairs are completed. Sure. I do the professional listing photos on every listing, doesn't matter what the price is, right?
Do you pay for them yourself?
Absolutely.
So even if you have like a $50,000 listing, you do
Just
professional photos?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
You know how many leads you get off $50,000 listings?
I just did we just listed at 65 grand we paid for him, and we got a sign call this morning from the guy that's in it. First thing this morning, he listed today, already got a call.
Yeah, we're in Springfield. Half our town is under 100,000. So, I mean, literally, I think half our town is under 100,000. So, yeah, that's a huge lead source. If you sell a $30,000 listing, you make $1,000, right? So, I'm gonna spend $100 to make $1,000 all day long, right? So, $100 to me is pipsqueak change. It is out of pocket. Put it on a credit card. You know, pay it at the end of the month or something. I would do it every single time. Now, if you have a friend or family member who's a professional photographer, here's what I would recommend. Pre-negotiated packages. You're gonna shoot 20 homes for me this year, I'll pay you $50 a home. And I pay them up front. There it is. So then anytime I call you, you go to that house right now, right? You can do something like that. I use Randy Henderson with Henderson Images. He's one of the best in Missouri. He's been featured in national magazines. 417 magazine features his photos constantly. He's $100, so I use him every day, twice on Sunday. You get the images the same day. So, I mean, he's fantastic.
They're ready to go.
They're ready to go. They're sized correctly. They're delivered in an easy-to-use format. You can pull them right into Facebook, whatever. I love Randy. There's others that you can use too. I've used Terry Kent with Dwell. I had a hard time with the way he delivered the photos and photoshopped them, but I mean, he did great on a few other listings for me. So Randy's my go-to, and yeah, I'd pay for it anytime. Now, if you want to,
You need to learn how to download the Randy's pictures, because they're not there or buried.
no, he sent you a YouTube video how to do it and a step-by-step instruction. And then the other deal is, shoot, lost my train of thought. Oh, so when you direct them to withhold the listing until listing photos are complete, the board will not audit when your listing photos are complete. Does that make sense? They will audit the difference between your listing agreement and when the listing goes live. So, in other words, if you're 4 days from list date and you have it preloaded in the MLS and you hit save, bam, fine, right? Because that's 4 days. So, if you tell the board, hey, I've got a listing going live on the 20th and it's the 16th, they're going to immediately fine you or they're going to immediately audit you. Josh's first deal, they did this to him, right? It's awesome. I paid 200 in fines until I found this little trick. So this little trick allows you to do 2 things. One, you can withhold it until either repairs are made, or until you've finished all your listing docs, or until it's the Sunday after the Super Bowl, or whatever they want. So it just allows you autonomy. If the board audits, they see that, they can't do anything. Jim Bolin approved, Wes Litton approved, do it. Tell Kathy Booth I said hi, by the way. She and I spent many hours on the phone over this. Okay, any questions with that one? Okay. Now here's what I do. I don't do the MLS input form before the listing. In other words, I'll bring it and I'll use it for notes, but I'm not going to have them sign it there at the listing. I'm going to come back to the office, plug it into the MLS and print it off the MLS, right? That way it looks very professional. Then I'll dot loop add their signatures to it. I don't want all my handwritten stuff all over them. I've done it that way before if I needed to. It's just a lot cleaner. It looks more professional when you do things electronically. And so I found that most people appreciate a cleaner version of that document. Some will actually scroll through it line by line and tell you where you're wrong. So be prepared for that. Okay, a seller disclosure document. So here's what we, again, do is we will go to the listing presentation, we will get the signed employment agreement, and we will not put a sign and lockbox on right then. Instead, we'll give them homework in the form of their seller disclosure statements. What time is this over? 3, okay. We'll give them homework in the form of their seller disclosure statements. So I won't drop off my sign and lockbox, I'll get the signed documents, fantastic. Here's your seller disclosure statement. Let me know when you've completed that. I will pick it up when we do our professional photos. So just go ahead and fill it in, leave it at the house. When we do the professional photos, we'll come back and snag it, okay? So when we come back, we let Randy go in, he does his professional photos. I do get a key when I get signed listing documents. So we'll get a key. We'll go in, let Randy do the thing. I'll place the lockbox, I'll place the sign, I'll collect the seller disclosure statement. Once those photos comes in, that's enough. I've now got disclosures, I've got photos, I've got the signed, I've got signed listing paperwork. The only thing I have left is the MLS input form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, it'll be done in the MLS. I will then at that point, because that's where you select your price and your list date, right? So go in, put price, list date, end date. I will take that, send it to sellers for signatures. Now, another thing on the MLS input form, another trick for you. So the board will also not audit agent remarks and marketing remarks because they're not mandatory fields. However, your sellers will audit that. They will freak out at what you put in there. So what I do is I put in to be determined, TBD, in those 2 boxes. I don't put them in the actual MLS. I will leave them blank in the MLS, print the input form, pull it into dotloop, put in TBD in both those boxes and have them sign. The board accepts that, you're good to go on that. Then when you go in to actually write your marketing remarks, you want your marketing remarks to match your pictures. Again, we talked about the walkthrough. So I want my marketing remarks and my pictures to be the exact same walkthrough. Does that make sense? It just takes people on a tour of the property. So I usually craft those 2 things together. The frustrating thing about photos is you get like 30 of them in there, you gotta click and drag and use their system to get them rearranged, right? Make sure to select the primary image, it's a little flag on there. Make sure you select the one you want as the primary image. It's not the first photo. This is why when you see a listing, like the first picture will be like the kitchen. It's because the agent never selected the primary photo to be the front. They just assumed the first photo was, okay?
So you can find it's not an exterior picture too?
Bam, and it's another fine, because that's what the board does. Fines you.
I did not get fined.
It happens. Doug Lutz did. He and I fought that together too, and they still charged him the fine. So stupid. Okay. Moving checklist. You can look through the rest of these. What to expect checklist. You can tell them that, or you can leave it with them. The moving checklist is a fun little ditty. You can hand that to them, see how they like it, whatnot. Clubs, health and fitness. Come on. How many people are going to go over there and do that? Okay. Now it's asking us to go over the listing presentation together. Would you guys like to kind of open it up for some questions, that sort of thing? Or do you want me to go through a mock listing presentation? Don't all speak at once.
Teacher's choice?
What's that?
Teacher's choice?
Okay. Well, does anyone have any questions? Anything at all so far? We're close to the end. So, what's that?
What's one of the biggest objectives you've ever really run into during a listings presentation, to list a home?
Yeah.
That you thought was going super smooth? If it comes up even more than once, I was just curious, what's an objective that you learned to have to handle?
Yeah. So, Yeah, I love this
And
question.
especially being prepared for it, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest part. The hardest part is preparation. So the first thing I'm gonna say is, again, we start with the models, which in bold, they have a full objection handbook.
Right.
So that's up in the PC room, grab that. Also, I think you can get it on the Maps app. But one of the things I'm gonna say about objections is a little bit, they teach it in bold, but it's just a basic people handler. So the first option is isolate and then ask a separate question, right? The second option is ask the question in reverse, okay? So we don't isolate, we just ask the question in reverse. So for instance, price comes up every single time. You want to price a house at 300, they want it at 375. And you're like, it's not going to sell. They don't get that, they think it's worth 375. Their cousin Billy Joe in Branson sold a crappy house for 375, so there's got to be worth that, right? So on the flip side, we can isolate a pricing objection. Well, I don't know, that other agent said the house was worth 375, and if you're saying 300, I don't know if we can list with you. Fantastic. Other than price, so that's the isolation. Other than price, is there any reason you wouldn't list with me today? Embedded command, list with me today. See what I did there? Other than price, is there any reason you wouldn't list with me today? Well, no, but we've got to get our price. Great. Why do you need to get your price? So then we ask that in reverse. Although don't say why. Never ask a question of why because it's defensive. Two, what requires you to get that price? Or how come you need to get that price? Or help me understand why that price is so important to you. Right? So we ask that question in reverse. And then they're going to give you some reason, right? And it's usually going to be complete BS. Zillow said so. The house down the street sold for this much. And again, now we're going to go back to our original script. Well, if you remember, Mr. Seller, earlier I had mentioned that you and I don't really get to price the home ourselves. We have preferences as to where we'd like it to sell, but the market actually makes the price. So let me ask you this. Would you buy this house today at $375? Well, no. Okay. So if we're roughly, 25% overvalued on this home, do you want to pay 25% over what the market says another house is worth? Well, no. Okay. So that's the same thing, Mr. Sellers. We can't ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do, right? And if they say no, and they just keep refusing, I probably won't take that listing. I'll probably say, go ahead and list with that Murray agent. Yeah, I don't have any sales training anyway. I wouldn't say something like that. And I just pick on Murray because they're big and they're blue.
That's okay, that's right.
Yeah. Did you really?
Yeah.
I really do like
I'm not
their,
afraid to say that.
no, I love Chris Bryant, their new coach. He's one of my best friends. Like, he and I work out together almost every day. I love him, but
I used to
pick
work
on
for Keller up north in Kansas City.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So when price continues, I just simply revert back to the same script. Isolate, is there any other reason? No. Okay, so Mr. Seller, you're telling me you want to list with me and yet we're stuck on this price issue. How can we overcome it? Well, you can just take the listing at $375. But I can't. Not only is it a violation of the code of ethics, but the market's not going to sell that home. And frankly, Mr. Seller, I don't do this for fun. I have to make a living. And the way we make a living is we price homes accurately, we market them the best, and we sell homes. And if you don't want to do those three things, then I'm not the man for you. And we have to be okay with walking away from those situations at times, right? Because usually, by the time you get to here, you're good, right? Usually they're like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So what if? And then they're going to bargain, right? Okay, instead of 375, what if 325? Now you're ballpark. Now you can know. Okay, is it too crazy to be $10,000, $20,000 overpriced in a $300,000 house? So here's what I would do, and I don't know if I should turn this off to say this, but what I'll do is in my listing agreement, in the special agreements where we wrote that thing about photos, I will write in a price reduction and say, fantastic, let's start there. Will you agree with me that if we do not have 10 showings within the first 2 weeks, that we'll do a $20,000 price reduction? So let's price it there. If we don't have an offer in 2 weeks, or 10 showings in 2 weeks, we got to do a reduction. What do you think? And then in the meantime, we'll also evaluate all that feedback, and then we can make a decision together on that.
Right.
So I'll write that into the special agreements. That way there's an expectation, right? If that gets interrupted, man, if he hits 10 showings and the feedback is all this house is overpriced, that's simple. Mr. Seller, we've had 10 showings that all said it's overpriced. we had kind of talked about this at the start. I want to know what you want to do with this house. How badly do we need to get this house sold? Or you can ask it another way. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you need this house to sell? If they're a 2, they're probably not going to reduce the price. You're probably going to ride the listing out, keep marketing it, keep recommending the reduction, right? At some point, you might have to walk away. If they're like right now, I've got a vacant 350. That thing needs to go, and it's a little bit overpriced. I think now that the showing feedback has come back, I think it's a little overpriced. The CMA said it was good, you know. So when I take that, hey, Mr. Seller, hey, I've got 5 showings here that all say you're overpriced by 10 grand. Can we drop 10 grand? You know, at 350, 10 grand's not that much. That's a real estate commission, basically. So he'll drop that 10 grand. We'll do fresh marketing again, update those little things, see what happens.
Can I have something there?
Go for it.
Say, for example, that home, that house you got this eviction today for $350, and you've had a lot of people saying it's 10 grand, say too high. What would you do in the case of, say some agent called you up and said, hey Wes, you know, we got an offer, it's like pretty good, 10 grand less, like that would kind of seal it, correct?
I would say, write me the offer, baby.
Bring it home, baby.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care what it says. Write me an offer.
Because that could happen too, right?
So here's what I love about listing. And when you list, you're completely in control because they offer to you, and then you just decide what you want to do, right? And if you're able to disclose multiple offers, then the next person is interested. You can say, hey, I've already got an offer that's great. Can you beat it? Or you can go back to this guy and say, hey, we're extremely close. Can you do this? Right? So for instance, I listed one in Brentwood at 165. It was a flip. 165 was about 10 grand overpriced, but it was like 2,200 feet. So I was like, man, there's enough profit margin there where a flipper could go in and do that. And this property needed a lot of work. We got 4 offers at 120. Great. Okay, literally they're all 120 cash as is. What do you do with that? You know, Mr. Seller, literally it's 120. Obviously, the market's telling us it's 120. And then we got one more offer at 124 because they asked, how many offers do you have? Well, we have 4. What do I have to beat? Well, they're all at 120, so that's obviously way away from 165. Bring me what you can. They were at 124. It was a finance deal and it was owner-occupant. And I immediately knew that if an owner-occupant is going to write an offer on this house, there's a reason they want it, right? They're probably not going to do a live-in flip on a house that big in Brentwood. They probably needed $100 grand worth of work. So I knew they were going to actually owner-occupy it as is. And so I took the other offers, I took that offer to all the other ones, and no one matched it. But I don't have to tell that to this other offeree. So I went back to my seller and I said, let's go to 150, I'll play hardball, let's see if we can do this. So I called the 124 agent, I said, hey Courtney, thank you so much for that offer. First of all, it is way too low. Can you do 150? And 150 is $15,000 asking price. They thought they were getting a deal. And I knew they were, because the comp said 160 all day long. And so we contracted at 150, we closed the deal. They appraised at 186.
Wow.
These people were thrilled, right? But the flip market had it at 120. So I'm going to negotiate like my life depended on it, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, you know? I do the same thing with inspections. If I'm representing a buyer, right, which thankfully I haven't in a while. Sorry, Ryan. Thankfully I haven't in a while. If I represent a buyer and I get an inspection notice back, and let's say the inspection report's not even that bad, but there's some stuff on it, my first call is to the listing agent. Hey, we just got the inspection back. Just real quick, I want to let you know it's pretty bad. So I'll call you back when I can get this thing put together. Click, that's it. What does that do? That listing agent's not like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So he goes to his sellers and says, hey sellers, man, I guess it didn't come back very well. The agent just called me and said it's pretty bad, right? So the sellers have an expectation that it's going to be really bad, that the repair report's going to come over and it's going to be gargantuan or very expensive. When I know it's probably like $500 worth of repairs, and my people want all of them, right? And so I just put the $500 worth of repairs on there. All of a sudden, the list agent calls me back and goes, "Wait, that's it?" I said, "Well, yeah, you know, my sellers are really willing to make this work. My buyers are really willing to make this work. My buyers are getting everything they want, yet the expectation was set." So I interrupted it in a positive sense, right? So all of a sudden their expectations were, oh my gosh, so happy they accepted every time we move forward.
It worked really well.
It's
got
awesome.
everything we asked
You
for.
get it almost every time.
Actually, I'm like, why don't we throw a couple things in, that way we have negotiating power when I
Exactly.
don't wanna just ask for what you want, let's ask for a little more, that way we can negotiate them down, and they ended up doing everything.
So, and here's another script. Oh, yeah, I mean, it works. The other script is on the buy side. Hey, we got the inspection report, there's a lot on it. Are you people open to like monetary compensation instead of actually doing the repairs? Like, oh yeah, absolutely, fantastic. So then you go back to your inspection report, like, oh, there's a hole in the sheetrock, and there's this, and you know, some of this silly stuff, or like this light doesn't work. You put that on the inspection notice, and you throw in an extra $500, right? All of a sudden you send it over, and boom, you just got your clients an extra $500 for nothing, for a phone call, right? So negotiation and the way we use words as real estate agents is extremely, extremely important. That's why bold scripts, I hate them. You gotta know them. I have 2 script partners right now for this new gig I'm doing as assistant team leader. It's flipping weird, man. But the words are powerful, extremely powerful. And the way we use them can really either set up our clients or they can really kind of show our hand. And we want to make sure we're not showing our hand. But on all objections, so price, not wanting to do repairs, well, I'm interviewing other agents. Great, so you're interviewing other agents. What causes you not to list with me today? Or why, I wouldn't say why. What can I do to make you list with me today? How about that answer? Well, you could do this. Great, I'll do it. Why not? Well, we really want to consider our options. Fantastic. What are your options? Well, we'd pick you or we'd pick someone else. I mean, really, what's the difference? You're already at the kitchen table, right? So isolate, ask a clarifying question, right? And then come back and say, that's fantastic, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like you just ask it backwards. What are your other options? So, you know, interview another agent. I like the discount brokerage one. Well, we think we're gonna list with a discount brokerage. Okay, other than saving a couple bucks and getting bad service, why wouldn't you list with me today? I just straight up ask it, you know? Oh, what do you mean bad service? Well, they're a discount brokerage. They're a discount because they don't do as much for you as I will. You know, oh, I guess that makes sense. You know, so just working through the isolation, ask them a question, something along the lines of, why won't you list with me today? Right? And then bring it back, well, because X, Y, Z, and it's usually the same objection, right? Or they'll say, well, there's really no reason to, and then you can address it. But if they say, well, because I want to do this again, right? So if they bring back the same objection, then you just ask the question back to them.
Have you ever been asked or confronted with Zillow and the Zestimate?
Yes.
And how,
So
how would you reply? Like, say the home realistically is like, say, $225,000.
Mhm.
Zillow and the Zestimates is like 285 or like some ridiculous number.
I love this one.
How would you work through that?
It's very simple, especially in the state of Missouri. Missouri is a non-disclosure state, meaning we tell no one anything. We don't even tell the county government what we paid for a house, right? So the assessor doesn't know. Only our local MLS knows. Zillow doesn't know. So what Zillow is doing is giving you a best guess on what data. No data. So they're literally going, okay, nationally, a home this size should sell for about this much a square foot, right? They don't have Missouri data, right? Missouri is like a dark list for them. It's
So they
really
could use
fun.
in Texas or whatever.
Exactly. They could be using Oklahoma or whatever,
Right.
what a disclosure state. And so they pull that data and they try to apply it to our local market. So the script I use is, you know, Zillow's like hiring your cousin out in California to list your house. Like, she doesn't know the Southwest Missouri market. She has no insights into it. She would literally just do whatever you said and hope it works. It's kind of what Zillow is. They're just giving you whatever they can and hope it works. Right? So because of that, we have to look to the actual market. Because you wouldn't buy a stock based off what your Uncle Richie says it's worth. So you can only buy a stock at what the market price is it at. So we got to do that same thing with your house. We have to price it where the market will actually handle it. Right? And I use the comparison to the stock market a lot. You know, a stock's only worth what someone will pay for it. Right? So if you've ever seen a stock just crash, you know, the bid, which is the purchase order, be like, let's say the stock's worth, $40, right? The bid will be at 25, right? And the ask will be trying to catch up with the bid. So in other words, what people are willing to pay is under what people are trying to sell it at. That's what makes a stock fall, right? And until those two meet, right, is what we call break even. Until those two break even, we don't see that price. That's what we call a stock floor. That's where supply and demand meet, right? So when the price is dropping, it's because someone's trying to buy it under what someone's trying to sell it for, meaning the value just continues to go down. And once those two meet at whatever that determined price is by the market, that's where the deals start happening. Now stocks start trading, right? We call that a floor. And so real estate's the same way. If someone's willing to pay $200 for it, but you're asking $250, that house is going to sit there. And it's going to look uglier and uglier and uglier. So either we have to meet demand, or we have to do something to the house to bring up demand, right? So either we go down, or we bring them up. In other words, do a complete HGTV remodel and list the house, right? What else are you going to do? You know, most houses you can't do much other than that. Okay, I have taken up all your guys' time. I am fine to stick around for a few more minutes of questions if you guys want to, but feel free to get up and jive. You're going to get an email with just some follow-up. Please be honest in it. Okay? The reason we're sending you those emails is to figure out, should we invite instructors back? So if you don't want me to teach this again, I won't.
You did a great thing.
Of course. Thank you guys.
I have a question. I need my website, so I can share on here too.
Is that your poster website? That's your KW.com website. It's not your Placer website. You should have a personal branded website through Placer. You do. Every KW agent does. It's through my KW.
How'd it go?
The first time you log in, it asks you to set it up.
Good.
You'll have to do it on a laptop. And then technology, and then websites. And then it'll say set up your Placer website. Yep, so you'll go in and you'll basically fill out all the forms and build your own website.
I don't know why I
And then
thought
you'll
that
take
was
that and start sharing your assessment. It's a lot easier than it sounds. And then you can always email Chris Day, and Chris can help with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I got 7 in now. Good for you.
Well, Jan and I usually do that. I don't know, we have that option.
Here's your trip.
I just got back. 9 inches of snow over there.
Oh, wow. I bet you're glad to be where you can drive on the streets.
You know,